Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you may be. Welcome back to the Same Old Arsenal podcast, sponsored by the West Cork Beer Company. Colin, thank you very much for your kind sponsorship, sir. He is helping me bring this podcast to you. So he's asked me to say a few words before. Now, hopefully, I'll get this script off by heart soon. But I'm reading it off my phone because he only sent it to me today. Sponsored by the West Cork Beard Company, handmade beard oils and balms for a strong, healthy, great-looking beard. The products are made from all natural ingredients in Clonakilty in West Cork, which is where we live. Check out his YouTube channel at the West Cork Beard Company for some great tips on how to look after your beard, Harry. Links are below in the description. Please check him out. He is kindly sponsoring this channel for us, helping us bring it to you. Episode 102. What did I call it again? Eddie, Xhaka, Saka. Because they've been unreal players for us the last few games, chaps. Let's get into the introductions. Good evening to you all in the chat box. Good evening to you all. Hope you're all well. Thanks for coming to join us. Hello to you if you're listening to on the audio. Thanks for listening to us. Mr. Dan, how are you, sir?
All good, thank you, Craig. How are you, buddy?
I'm all right, mate. Thank you very much. I'm just glad this is going to be, hopefully, going to be a positive podcast.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why not.
It's been a while. Harry, how are you, mate?
Good, very good, thank you. And really buzzing after what we saw last night for the majority of the game anyway.
And just let me tell you, if you haven't signed up for that hot mic app yet, and you're listening to us, sign up for it. It's on iOS and Android, Hot Mic. And if you don't want to listen to the crap commentary, you can listen to Harry do the commentary, as I was doing last night, which was, and I'll let you know, he was actually better than look, Peter Drury, you know.
I won't go that far. He's the best.
Peter, you were better than Steve McManaman, no? Let me tell you that. Sign up for that.
Didn't need subtitles.
No, certainly didn't. Mark, how are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, mate.
Good. Anything else to add to that? No? I'm
going to start by apologising for breathing last week. I nearly went out and got myself a Darth Vader mask for this week, but I couldn't find one in the shop, so I'm just going to try and control it. Sorry.
No problem. That was very funny. One of the funniest comments I've had, to be honest. Judges, are you nice and warm now?
Oh, yeah, I am, as it happens. Got the fire on, heating on, yeah.
Was it cold in Bournemouth?
Oh, well, I was. I don't know about anybody else, but I was cold, and it started hailstones, and it was absolutely awful evening, from a weather point of view. Can I understand that Nigel's not in the chat today? Is that correct?
That's correct, yes. Nigel's not there because he is...
Right. So who's throwing people out? Because
we haven't got anyone. I can do it.
Right, well, Rob's already started saying I can use that beard stuff for me barnet. That's not on, Craig. It's not on, right? You know what I mean? Nigel's not in here, and they've already started to abuse the system. I'm not having it. I'm not having it.
Good man, Rob. Good man, Rob.
Yeah, good man, Rob. Good man, Rob. Rob the Mob, I'm going to call him, you know what I mean?
Richard
thank you, Richard. Thank you very much. Thank you, Richard Wasted. Oh, I love him.
I know they're good. They are good, but still, every week, it's hard to be beaten. I mean,
yeah.
Look at that.
That's his neighbour,
Matthew Dolly. Well done, Dolly.
Okay, well, so we have people abusing you in the chat, and now we have you abusing the viewers.
Well, I can't help it, So
my apologies, people.
Well, bloody good day yesterday. Good trip down to Bournemouth. Lovely little ground down there. Shame won't be going there again for a little while. But I'd love Bournemouth to stay up, but I can't see it. They give us the freedom of the park for 45 minutes.
They did.
But yeah, it was. Just as the game finished, and oh my God, the hailstones come down and absolutely got soaking wet. And I'm not going to criticise Ken, but I will. he gets in his car. It's like he has to pay for the eating in his car, which he doesn't. You know what I mean? Like it was like it was absolutely freezing cold in the back. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Perhaps he does have to pay for the eating.
Well, yeah, I reckon he must do because he didn't put it on all bloody day and all night.
It's in the coin slots, huh?
No, and you know,
you're not tipping him enough, Lee. You need to tip him more, mate.
Well, maybe I should do, like, you know what I mean, like, you know. So there you go, like, you know. But, yeah, great day.
Good. Let's start with the Chelsea game. We all sat there last week and we all said, "Oh, I can't see us beating Chelsea. I can't see us beating Chelsea."
Whoa, hold up.
Yeah, all right, okay. Mark said that we'd get a draw, and we did.
He did say that.
But true to the word, after I think it was 20 minutes or 25 minutes, Mr. Mustafi makes a mistake, which Leeds goes on. Luiz concedes a penalty. The Chelsea fans, I mean, can you imagine if an ex-Arsenal defender came back to the Emirates and gave away a penalty and got sent off? The Chelsea fans must have been absolutely delighted with it. But then you're sitting there and you're thinking, oh, God, here we go. I put some text messages into the chat box to say, into the WhatsApp group, this is going to be 4, this is going to be 5. But Dan, my goodness, mate, what's the first half? Okay, was good. But the second half performance, well, mate, what about it?
Yeah, I said before the game that I didn't really mind about the results, and I said that I didn't really mind about the results for the rest of the season because of the poor start we've had. It was all about the performance, and I think that particularly in the second half, it was sensational. I think everybody just dug in. We're seeing these young players now that were supposed to be an option, but they've ended up being our solution because the senior players have kind of let us down in certain areas of the field. And I think that they've stepped up to the mark. We've had a lot of injuries and, a lot of weight's been put on the shoulders of these players, and they've just really, really shone through. And it was an exceptional performance as a team. And I think that what Arteta has done there is installed this confidence, which we're starting to see. But more importantly, we're starting to get fitter and fitter now. I think that these young players are showing their energy, and it is getting towards the 90-minute mark, and they still are able to push. I think when we played Chelsea before at the Emirates, that was the reason we lost the game. We run out of steam. We certainly didn't run out of steam in this game. I thought it was exceptional in terms of how we reacted. The Mustafi thing and the Luiz thing, I don't want to go on it too much because I'm not going to be too negative tonight. Mustafi shouldn't be in the team. But he was, and that's the reason he shouldn't be in the team, is because he's
but we say that, right?
like that.
I'm going to have to back him up there. Yes, he did make an awful mistake against Chelsea, which obviously led to one of their goals. But after that, Dan, I thought he was bloody good. He could have crumbled. He could have, gone to absolute tosh. But he didn't.
He was, but this is what's been happening for the last 4 years, Craig. He hasn't been tosh for 4 years. He's made errors for 4 years, and that's why he shouldn't be in the team. That's just my opinion. A lot of people say, he's a brilliant defender, and of course, but how many points has he cost us now? Yeah. These players just keep going back into the side. Oh, Mustafi's made an error. What, again? Oh, but we haven't got anybody else. I'm sick and tired of hearing it. So that, for me, is the only thing I'll say that's negative. David Luiz, I don't blame. He's just tried to stop him from scoring, and he's obviously fouled him, so he's got to go. So that's the situation there. A lot of people were saying that it should have been a yellow and not a red card. I don't know. I'm so confused by the rules now. That's another
double
thing
jeopardy rule.
Yeah.
So the rule is that only applies if you make a genuine attempt to win the ball. So they've obviously deemed David Luiz not to have made he's gone to take out the man, and it's a deliberate. It's a deliberate foul. But that's why that rule wasn't applied in that case.
Yeah, absolutely. But they're the negatives of the game. For me, the positive was all about the second half. And I've got to bring up two players that I thought were brilliant again yesterday, but were superb against Chelsea. And that is Saka and Martinelli. I think down that left-hand side, I think Tierney, Kolasinac are looking like they're not going to get back in the side if they come back to fitness, because these two look absolutely unreal. I know Saka's not a left-back, and maybe he should be staying as a left midfielder potentially. But at the moment, he's looking absolutely superb there. I don't think he should be moved out the side. Martinelli, I mean, what can you say about the goal? The last time I saw someone run through a one-on-one like that at 18 years old was Nicolas Anelka, and he's half as good as he was when we've got a hell of a player on our hands here. He looks like the kind of the tenacity of Alexis Sanchez, but also he's got a little bit of Thierry Henry about him with that finish, wasn't he? You know, the way he opened his body up and stuff
Very
like
composed.
that. Very composed finish. So, yeah, a lot to be excited about. And I think that we took some positives out of that. And you can't fault a performance like that. It doesn't matter about the result. You can't fault a performance. When you're down to 10 men, it's very hard to win with 11 men against Chelsea. When you're down to 10, I thought it was an exceptional performance. And the last thing I want to say is how good the fans were. I thought the fans were absolutely
amazing
against Chelsea. It's the best I've seen atmosphere-wise away from home. I wasn't there. Lee will be able to tell you more. But from watching it at the TV at home, I heard them. It was as if that we were the home side. They were absolutely fantastic. And the fans get a lot of stick, you know. Even last night, hearing them singing Arsenal fan TV, get out of our club while we're 2-0 up. I didn't understand that. You know, sometimes they don't do themselves any favours, our fans. But I thought personally that the fans against Chelsea were exceptional and last night. So, yeah, that's the last thing I've got to say. Positive all round, Craig.
Positive all round. Harry, in your humble opinion, why have we been so good, particularly in the last two games?
I think that obviously Mikel Arteta's finally had some time on a training ground with the players. And, you know, when he first came in, it was a really difficult time because he'd come in around the Christmas rush. I think it was 3 or 4 days before Christmas. There was back-to-back games constantly. He said it himself. You had training session preparing for a game. Then you had a recovery day the next day. Then the day after that, you were preparing for another game. So I think what we've seen him actually have some time on the pitch, actually be able to implement some of the things that he wants to do. And one of the things that we've seen more noticeably in the last couple of weeks has been this thing where when Arsenal have possession, Granit Xhaka drops into almost like a third centre-back position and allows Bukayo Saka, who's happened to be playing at left-back, to push forward and create an overload with Gabriel Martinelli. That's been really key to Arsenal sort of looking more dangerous on the attack. And we know that Saka's not a defender by trade. We know he's a more attack-minded player. And I think that's why he's opted to do that more on the left-hand side rather than the right-hand side of Arsenal's team at the minute. So we're seeing some of those tweaks happen. We're seeing an improvement in certain individuals' performances, which, you know, Granit Xhaka is one of those players. He's been far, far better under Mikel Arteta. Mustafi deserves some credit. I know he made that mistake against Chelsea, but after that, to then defend the way he did alongside Xhaka, who isn't a centre-half, I thought they were brilliant as a pair. I thought Mesut Ozil deserved credit that night as well because he was asked to drop into the midfield after the red card and he worked particularly hard. Lee Judge is looking at me funny. But when people say that Mesut Ozil doesn't run, that is an absolute myth. And if anyone's read the interview that came out the other day in The Athletic from Arsenal's former head of performance, he confirms that. He says the fact that people say Ozil doesn't run is an absolute myth. So Ozil wasn't one of the best players, but what I'm saying is he had to do a job that none of us wanted him to do. Nobody wants to see Mesut Ozil having to sit in the midfield when we're down to 10 men, but he done that and he got on with it. And Arsenal as a team looked much more united. They look much more organised. People keep talking about them getting tired in the latter stages of games. I don't actually think that they are so much physically tired. I think that they're getting mentally tired. And I think what it is the way we're playing now is new. It's something different. It's not something that they've been doing for months. And so when you're trying to change your habits, you can turn off mentally. Maybe you can't make that final press because you're not switched onto it and you're tired up here rather than it being down to the fact that your legs can't do it. And I think that as, you know, they get more used to it, we'll see less of that. You know, the Bournemouth game, we were cruising at 2-0. Unfortunately, we did let a goal in at the end and make it a little bit nervy in the latter stages. But overall, it was another positive performance. And one thing that you've got to give Mikel Arteta credit for is he's made us far more difficult to beat.
Absolutely. Mark, I think last night was our 6th game unbeaten under Arteta. What in your opinion, what do you think Mikel Arteta has brought to this side? Because under Unai Emery, we were kind of, you know, as fans being in the ground, watching it on telly, you kind of knew what was going to happen if we went 1 down or if we were 2-0 up and they got 1 back. You knew that we weren't going to win the game. Under Emery, like, I wasn't happy even if we were 4-0 up, even if we were ever 4-0 up under Emery. But you get to know what I mean. You know, you don't feel quite comfortable until we've scored at least 3 or 4 goals. What do you think Arteta is actually What do you think, in your own opinion? What has he brought to the club since he's been here?
He stripped it back, hasn't he? We keep talking about it. They're working as a team now, aren't they? And they're all getting as a unit and stuff. So this Granit Xhaka, for me, is fast becoming a candidate to be our next captain. I'm joking, but he's the way he's playing. In this system, it's like finally someone's found where he should have been playing the whole time, and that balance with Torreira. That is what the whole thing is being built on. And it's so simple. You go back over all the teams in the history have won the league and done well and stuff like that. They've got the spine. For many, many years, Arsenal haven't had a spine. We haven't got a player good enough to hold the midfield, to anchor the midfield on his own. I don't know many clubs in the Premier League have, to be honest. There's a couple of lads at City and Liverpool, obviously. But, there's a few lads dotting around. But, so we've got these two lads doing this job. It's taken something away from our attack. Of course it has. But now they're as a unit, defending as a unit. So we're sort of going back to the old style of, if you don't concede goals, you don't get beat. Build from the back, blah, blah, blah. So it's all about that. I think, Bournemouth are not particularly good, are they? But, so we shouldn't get too carried away. But the amount of chances we're giving away in a game is slowly but surely coming down and down and down. And there's no coincidence that as the lads are picking up on what they should be doing, getting to know their roles, and actually putting a shift in for the team. And that's another thing that they are doing. Mikel Arteta, he is an Arsenal, he's got a standing with Arsenal. He's used to be our captain and he played for us. And so, and he held... the way he played the game was the way Arsenal liked to play the game, as a gentleman, and played the game the right way, and he wasn't flashing the press and doing the wrong things on the pitch. He was an Arsenal man. The class, shone through. So, and I think he's sort of giving that, reminding the players that they play for Arsenal and that this is the standards that's expected of them. And I think Harry's right. That Ozil, he has been plugging some holes lately, which. You don't get a lot of credit for plugging holes. Very rarely do people do that. But as a defensive unit, they will appreciate that. And Ozil, I know I said in the group chat the other week that he was doing the Pele role in one of the World Cups. I'm not trying to compare him. Of course, I'm not. He's nowhere near. But what I'm saying is, Pele went to a World Cup. He scored a bag full of goals. He was the hottest talent on the planet. The next World Cup, I think he scored one goal. The reason for that is because he was standing on the right wing, two men marking him, and he created a load of space for everybody else to play with, And I think Frank Lampard touched on it in the Chelsea game, that Ozil drifted out wide. It caused them all sorts of problems because you cannot leave him. Say what you like about him, you can't leave him.
No.
So he is doing a job. It might not be the job we expect of him because he's got this huge price tag and this huge wage, but he is doing a job. Arguably, it's not worth 350 grand a week, but still, that's not his fault. He didn't put those digits on a paper, did he?
No, absolutely not, mate. And I think you summed it up lovely there. But I'm going to come to Lee, and what I found, Lee, at the Chelsea game was that. And I might be wrong, but I'm only saying what I saw. I thought we got better when Ozil came off and Guendouzi come on. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think we did. I see what the guys are saying. He done a job, but unfortunately, that's not his best job. If we're playing with 11 men, then Ozil is. But once you've gone down to 10 men, luckily, I'll tell you what, Granit Xhaka was absolutely outstanding because
brilliant. He was.
Arteta would have took off Martinelli and kept on Ozil. I couldn't believe that. But it done the right fit. Look, at the end of the day, once we went down to 10 men, that's not Mesut Ozil's game. It's as simple as that. Let's get this right. Guendouzi came on and worked superbly well. And just like every player in the team at the moment, he's got the Arteta touch because Guendouzi came on, played really, really well. I thought he was absolutely outstanding yesterday. So he's now giving the manager something to go. And the one plus point about that is lots of people have been saying, Guendouzi and Xhaka don't play well together or they can't play together, do this and do that. Yesterday, they put in a good performance, particularly first half. I think the one thing I say about Granit Xhaka, I didn't think he was that great yesterday because once once the intensity of the game went, he gets a little bit sloppy in his play. You know, I mean, when it's really up there and it's a real intensive game like it was against Chelsea, you know, Granit Xhaka turns up, and I think that's where his problem's been. I think when he against the real good sides, Granit Xhaka can get up from and really, really play well. And you know, he has really, really shone in the last month that it's been. I have to say this, you know, Mesut Ozil's going to have to start producing performances, because if he doesn't, with the likes of Guendouzi playing like he did yesterday, and also Danny Ceballos, he had a lovely little cameo when he came on yesterday. I really enjoyed his little cameo, because he got the ball in positions where I want to see Mesut Ozil getting those balls, not holding Pepe's hand out on the right hand side, and Frank Lampard saying, "Oh, it causes us all problems," because he's going to say that because that's where he wants him to play every week. So we don't catch him in fourth place. You know, come on, we ain't stupid. You know what I mean? Like, I want Mesut Ozil in behind the forward, making things click. And I can tell you that if Mesut does do that with the player, because I think Mark come up with a very, very good point. The way we're playing at the moment, it's been more on the defensive side, which has looked good. We just lost a bit going forward, you know, so we need to bring that back into our game, and that's going to either be Ceballos or Mesut Ozil is going to need to do that, like, you know. But for me, the Chelsea game, I'm going to say it now. Like, as soon as he got sent off, I said, "We might as well go home," because I thought, here we come, we're going to get stuffed here. I'm not watching us get stuffed. I'm not watching it, you know. But during that 15, 20 minutes, you see, hold on, things are changing here. I thought we could nick something. And then, like, you know, the more we played, the better. You know, Torreira, you know, has got to have a special mention, because he's been outstanding the last few games. He was brilliant in that game as well. And they was all coming on, you know, and I think as Dan said, Mustafi, you know, you could really kick him right up the old Jackson, couldn't you? Because he does that sort of mistake, right? And basically, it didn't matter how well he played after that. It cost us. It cost us by doing what he'd done, you know. And to his credit, I thought he was brilliant after that. But, you know, when you're in the pub or you're going home on the way home on the train, you know, people would turn around. Someone said, Mustafi, but yes, but he gave away the goal, didn't he? Like, and that's what happens with him all the time. Yes, he does this and does that. I thought yesterday he done really well as well, and I feel so sorry for him, because if you've been to Bournemouth, you're right close to so you can hear everything. You know what I mean? Like, you know, and I couldn't actually sing his name because I don't really know his first name. You know what I mean? Like, I said, where is his first name? Saeed or Saad? Where is it?
Shock drive.
So I couldn't sing it.
I don't know. Whatever. Mustafi. So, Simon.
Simon.
Yeah.
Is it Skodran?
Skodran.
I couldn't say that bit. So and then I was going Mustafi, like, you know, like, and he must have heard all of that, because he was on top of it. You know, it must have made him feel really good. And then he goes and does his bloody ankle in, like, you know. So
he ain't going to feel good when he realises that you can't bloody be bothered to read his first name.
Well, especially when he's lying in hospital watching this, you know. I mean, sorry about that. Sorry about that. Sorry,
what
Simon.
Is it? What is it?
Skodran.
What is it? Skodran.
You know what it is? You know what it is? Lee Judges is our Paul Merson, isn't he?
Squadron.
That's it, yeah. Squadron, yeah.
I can say Asperger, you know what I mean? Like, I can do with it. Like, you know what I mean? I can't do that one, you know what I mean? Anyway,
say it for Meccano, Lee. Say it for Meccano.
Upamecano.
He won't need to sign him if we can't pay £7 million for a centre back. We're not going to be paying 60, are we?
I want us to sign this Pablo Mari, because I can say that, not this Czechoslovakian or Ukrainian that they're talking about. Jesus Christ. Anyway,
just before we move on, I want to bring this one in. A kind donation from Bill. Thank you very much, mate, as always. And he says, next season, if we want to move forward, we have to solve what to do with Ozil, as we can't move forward with him in the team next season. #, it's time to go. Does anyone agree with that?
Yeah, listen, I think it's time. I think that the time has come for Mesut to move on. But I'm not saying that it should be now. I think that the way Arteta's playing, there's a lot of legs in the side. I'm going to have to say a big up yesterday in the first half. I watched it when I got in last night. Willock, I thought he was absolutely brilliant in the first half yesterday. Like, you know, he's got the legs, energy up and down, you know, and you're asking Mesut Ozil to do things that, you know, it isn't realistically his game, you know. So, and I think that's what I think there's going to be a DNA with Arteta, and I think that's how it's going to be. And I think some other, you know, I think even maybe, I don't know if I agree, like that Ceballos may fall into that category as well of not being the sort of Arteta man, you know what I mean? Like, you know, but I do like to see a little bit of creativity in the team, and I felt that for the first half we done that yesterday. Second half it wasn't there. I think in the game against Chelsea, that listen, I don't think no one should be criticised for the game against Chelsea. I think everybody put in a shift. I thought it was. Do you know when? You know, like I think most of the time, I think we all agree with this. Every time we've drawn this season, it's felt like a defeat. Do you know what I mean? Like, we should have won that game. Should have that. That game was a draw, but it felt like a winning draw, if you know what I mean. I don't think we should go celebrating and all that. But what I see there was a side that didn't capitulate, which I've seen so many times. I've seen it happen so many times against top class opposition. I remember a couple of years ago we lost. Saka got sent off against Chelsea at the Emirates. Within 10 minutes, we were a goal down. You know, we went 1-0 down from the penalty. We didn't fold. We didn't buckle. We kept ourselves going. We kept ourselves in it. And credit to Arteta, credit to Granit Xhaka, credit to Torreira, that we managed to keep our top three players on. Our attacking players on that give us a chance to score a goal. And that Martinelli goal, I'm sorry.
Yeah, unbelievable.
The place just absolutely exploded when that happened. It was just like, it was the best atmosphere that I've been in for a very, very long time. And, you know, it was just, I felt privileged to be at that game. You know, sometimes it's been a little bit of a chore. And, you know, do you know what? The atmosphere was brilliant in there yesterday, but it weren't as good as Chelsea, you know, and there weren't so many people in there against Chelsea. It was just a fantastic performance and atmosphere in there. And I felt yesterday we needed to go and make a point yesterday. And I felt that in that first half we'd done that with a good, real first half performance. Yeah, they're not a great side, Bournemouth, but they've just got a result the week before. So they were probably looking to just keep their momentum going. But no, all credit, we're in the next round. Couldn't be more happier, and we roll on to the next game.
Absolutely. So that we're talking about the Chelsea game. Oh, it's a big shout out to Hector Bellerin, of course.
Wow, fantastic.
First, it was, you know, absolutely brilliant. And that goal at the end, well. You know, I didn't expect that to go in. I was here at home watching it and got in trouble with the missus because I woke the kids up. But goodness me, I couldn't believe it when that hit the back of the net.
Last night as well.
He did. He was very good. We'll come on to last night. We're going to talk about last night after this quick ad break. See you in a minute. Of course, the West Cork Beer Company, our sponsor. Link in the description if you want to go and have a look and check out Colin and his products. Thank you very much indeed. So we travelled to Bournemouth last night for the FA Cup. Dan, what did you think of the team lineup when you saw it?
Nothing really surprised me too much. I knew he'd rotate. I knew some of the youngsters would get a chance. I thought he might have played Lacazette instead of Nketiah, but in a way, I was okay that he did start at Eddie. A lot of people were giving him kind of stick, really, saying, "Oh, Eddie's come back and this is a nightmare." I really think the lad's done much to deserve that criticism, if I'm honest. He went on loan to a club that didn't play him, so he come back. I don't really see that he deserves that much.
And when he did play, he scored.
Yeah, come on, he scored anyway. I don't think he's going to be the answer. Don't get me wrong, but I certainly won't be giving him stick. Anyway, I thought the team lineup was a really kind of predictable one. If I'm honest with you, I haven't really got a choice much at the moment at left back. Maybe surprised that Maitland-Niles didn't get a nod over Bellerin because Bellerin has just come back. But like I said before the ad break, I thought he was excellent last night again. I've kind of would like to see what we're doing down the right, because I still don't think Pepe's really making that much of a name for himself. I think he was horrendous last night. Had a bit of magic at one stage where he shot just wide, but it wasn't outstanding, was he, by any means? And some of the youngsters are really kind of playing a lot better than some of the seniors at the moment. I really believe that. I just wanted to touch on one player that Lee talked about, because Joe Willock, I thought was pretty good for most of the game, if I'm honest. I don't think anyone had an amazing second half, but if I had to pick one or two, then obviously Saka and Guendouzi would be the two that I would have picked as two of the better players. But Joe Willock really shown glimpses of what he can do. My only problem with Joe Willock is he has a game like that, and then he has a game where he's invisible, gets knocked off the ball and subbed. It's just a bit frustrating with him. I think he's kind of in the Nelson bracket for me. He's not quite ready to kind of step it up, but he has shown glimpses of a potential future. I think Guendouzi deserves credit, because when he doesn't play well, everyone seems to want to get on his back. But when he does play well, people just kind of ignore it. I quite like the lads. I always have done. Thought he was excellent last night. Slotted next to Granit Xhaka, and I've never been a massive fan of them two in the middle. But I think, like Lee says, the last two games that they have played together, both of them have stepped it up. I think Granit Xhaka becomes sloppy in the second half, but I'm not going to slate him. I still think he's been. I think since Arteta's come in, actually, he's really picked it up. And then the last thing I wanted to say was about the Mesut Ozil situation, because this links in with this nicely. I personally believe the number 10 is done. It's finished. Like, get rid of it. We don't need a number 10 in football. Nobody plays a number 10 anymore. Coutinho went. Look at Liverpool. They play three hard-working midfielders in Wijnaldum, Henderson, Fabinho. It doesn't matter if it's Keita, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Milner. They all come in and they work hard. Man City, De Bruyne is not a number 10 for Man City when you watch him play. Even Man City fans I've spoken to, they're like, he doesn't play number 10, mate. Doesn't play number 10 for us. He's in a free midfield. So people don't play number 10s anymore. It's just done. I don't really know many. People are linking us with James Rodriguez. I don't want any number 10s. I don't want any of them. Mesut Ozil, get rid of him when we can. It won't be the summer. It will be at Arsenal for another season when his contract runs down, and he'll leave on a free, because no one will pay him 350 grand a week. So for me, that's why I don't mind seeing the Guendouzis, the Willocks, the Ceballos that are coming in and working hard, because that for me is what our future is. I don't think our future is a number 10 midfielder. And I've been seeing that in the midfield now, and we're starting to look at the Lucas Torreira and Granit Xhaka partnership. That's why I would not mind playing a Guendouzi in there as well. Because that for me would be a hard-working free or a Ceballos, because I think Mesut Ozil his time's done. But great performance, great youngsters last night. Thought Saka was exceptional, and Martinelli again down that left. So yeah, for me, really, really positive signs, boys, for the future.
Dan, you got some nice comments in the comment section there, mate. After that,
oh really? I haven't even been looking to be
that rap. Look at that. Oh no, that's not the one.
Havertz, what?
No, sorry. Here we go. Look.
Second.
Yeah, Dan spitting the facts.
Spitting facts. Cheers, Karthik. Cheers, Karthik. Top man.
Harry.
It means I'm going to get some.
Yeah. Harry.
I'm going to get some bad comments now.
Let's come to you on that. Dan makes a very, very valid point about the number 10 role. Do you think that leaves the door open? Do you think that leaves the door open for players like Willock Coutinho, who played well last night? I mean, I thought he done very well last night, and I was very impressed with him. Do you think he's going to break into the team? Do you think he could be a first-team Arsenal player?
I don't think he's quite ready yet, but I think there is potential in Joe Willock. I think what I like about Joe Willock is
Willock Coutinho. Sorry,
yeah, Willock Coutinho. Sorry.
Yeah.
What I like about him is he's brave. He picks up the ball and he drives with it, and he was quite direct when he picked up the ball yesterday, which is the one thing that I would say that Mesut Ozil probably lacks when he plays in that role. There's times where I want to see him pick up the ball and drive at the penalty area. There's times where there was against Sheffield United, I think in the last home game, there was a time where he had the opportunity to just shift the ball on his left foot and have a crack, and he didn't do it. And that drove me mad. So I like to see that directness. In terms of Dan's point about the number 10, I think it's a very valid one. I think the game is slightly changing, and I think maybe we're going to see less of the old traditional number 10s. But I do think that you need to have one of your midfield three that has that license to get into that position, as and when they need to, and to not have to do necessarily as much defensive work. And I think that Kevin De Bruyne has kind of got that role at Man City where he is part of a three technically, and he will drop deep to get the ball, but ultimately it's going to be your Fernandinhos or your Gundogans that are going to be the ones that out of possession are going to be the first back to their position. And that's kind of agreeing with you, Dan, in the sense that the role's changing. But for me, Mesut Ozil, when he's in the team, it's because he's able to recycle possession, and very rarely does he give the ball away. He collects the ball. He might only play a 5-yard pass to the left or to the right, but when you're up against it and you're under a bit of pressure, that's so important to be able to retain possession. And we know that Arteta has learned from Pep Guardiola, whose philosophy is, if I have the ball, we can't concede a goal. So that is why he was left on at Chelsea, not because he was going to run harder than anybody else, but because he was going to be able to keep that ball just that little bit longer and give his teammates a breather. So in the sense of the number 10 role, I think in the future we can look to someone else. I totally agree. And I've never sat here and said that Mesut Ozil was the best number 10 in the world. I don't think that for a second. I just think that he has certain qualities that maybe we don't have in other players at the moment. And for me, a midfield of Guendouzi, Torreira and Xhaka just doesn't have enough of that in it for me. And that's where it comes down to finding the right balance. So I like Guendouzi, and I think he's done really well again lately. But for me, him, Torreira and Xhaka, it's not the right combination. I think we need somebody who's in between a Mesut Ozil and in between a Granit Xhaka. So maybe Dani Ceballos can be that man. Under Mikel Arteta, he's not had any chances because he was injured. Rightly so. He's got to earn his place in the team, and fingers crossed he'll get more game time. But I guess the reluctance to turn to Dani Ceballos comes from the fact that nobody really believes he's going to be at the club next season. And if giving Joe Willock those minutes is going to be more beneficial in the long run, then you can see why Mikel Arteta is doing that, and I back him on that.
Yeah, it's a good point, Harry. That I was really impressed with him last night, Willock, I have to say. I was very impressed with Nketiah as well. I still think he's got everything about him to be a really to be a player for us. I think he's got everything about him to be a great poacher. I mean, you look at his goal last night. Ball come across the box, come behind Martinelli, and who comes running onto it out of nowhere? That's the kind of. I mean, that's what I want Lacazette to do. But Lacazette doesn't really find himself in those positions enough. And
see, Craig.
Yeah.
Sorry, mate. The only thing I'd say on that Nketiah goal is, as much as he deserves credit for getting in the position and finishing it, for me, Gabriel Martinelli's run makes that goal, because he's actually gone across that near post and taken the defender with him. And Nketiah, I'm not convinced about him yet. But in that particular goal, I think it's the movement around him that has created that space for him. Credit to him for getting there and making sure that he follows it up and gets in the right position. But I just think that if Gabriel Martinelli doesn't make the run he does, which is such a smart run at the near post, then that space isn't there. And so it's about the movement that Arteta's instilling. It's about Xhaka dropping in. It's about Saka pulling out to the left. It's about Martinelli coming across the front post. It's a whole combination of things that create that space rather than just the one run, I would say.
Oh, no, I'm not saying... No. I think I'm just saying that Nketiah had the vision and had the to get into that position. He obviously he's seen Martinelli go across, so he's actually he's seen the space and he's run into that space, and he's ended up scoring a goal. That's what I'm saying. I mean, for a kid of his age, I just like the way. I just think he could really be like that substitute we could bring on. Get the ball in the box. He's pinging around. Nikita comes out from the middle of nowhere and boom, it's a goal. I just think he could be a real good poacher for us in the future. We got a comment in there. Look, Harry, look. Spot on. Harry spitting the facts. Harry spitting facts. We'll have to have a what's it called? We'll have to have a what is it? We'll have to have a face off.
Spit off.
Yeah, we'll have to have a same old Arsenal roasting session.
I don't like spitting. I think it's rude, but anyway.
Mark, let's talk about young
Hello.
Saka. Let's talk about young Saka.
Superb, isn't he?
Yeah, I'm starting to believe that.
Excites me, this lad.
Yes, I'm starting to think that he's going to be our left back, mate.
Well, I wouldn't be so sure because I think behind Aubameyang and Martinelli, he's like the next best or the most contributed to our goals and assists player, something like that. Anyway, since Arteta's come in or something, so his productivity going forward is fantastic. He's learning, isn't he? And playing left back is teaching him a thing or two about what's difficult, what fullbacks find hard to play against. So he's having wingers running at him, and he knows now about the defensive unit. So he's thinking, well, he can see how he's getting caught out and stuff like that. So that's going to help him go forward. So he may not end up there, but I think Ashley Cole, I think, started off as a striker or something. Dan, knows more than me. But I'm. Ashley Cole definitely didn't start off as a fullback. Maitland-Niles, I think, started off as strikers. Yeah, quite often you find these lads who end up playing different roles and whatnot. But I actually, I think he's a real talent. He looks like he's just slipped in there, hasn't he? He just looks like he's been there season after season. I'm really, really pleased. Sometimes these opportunities come about when you least expect them. Klassen actually's done it. You know what I mean? He's. We don't need to be paying him £100 grand a week anymore when we've got Saka sitting in the squad. So he needs to find himself a new club. Yeah, we do. I know. You can pay me later, Dan. But he's, he's done, isn't he? But it's exciting. There's so many of the lads. Martinelli, he's not really getting spoke about last night, but Harry just said, fantastic run, drawing defenders. I think he got an assist last night as well. That shouldn't go unnoticed, because it's as good as a goal. So there's some real positives, isn't there, in the whole way across the squad.
Lee, I want to bring you in on this comment. It's a bloody good comment. Thank you very much for your comment. Thanks for watching. Feng Sports, hope I've said that right. Feng Sports. You can't break up Saka-Martinelli partnership on the left. They are working so well together, and I have to agree with that 110%.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue that. I thought it was very defining at Chelsea. I thought first 10, 15 minutes they got I was found out a little bit, but after they sorted themselves out from that, I thought they was absolutely outstanding and terrorised a very, very experienced right-hand side against Chelsea. And yesterday I thought, I'm a big believer now in Saka being the left back. I think there's a couple of things for it. England, he could start getting lots of appearances for England and being around the squad there, because after Chilwell we've got no one else. Danny Rose, who can't get a game at Spurs, and is being linked with Bournemouth. Come on. So I think there's a real opportunity for him to do that. And as Mark said, Ashley Cole started off as a winger, and look how good he was. And I just think he's exciting. And the thing is, if he wants to take to this role, it is one of the best roles in football. It used to be the worst role, didn't it? Like left back in the changing room and all that sort of palaver when I played. But nowadays, it's the attacking role. It's the free role. Robinson down one side. Liverpool bomb their fullbacks on and have the freedom. And if you notice it yesterday, the way Arsenal players they do it, and then they switch to play, and it's Saka has got acres to go into, and he must be enjoying it out there. I would be. He's got the freedom of the park. And what the good thing about him is that once he gets into these positions, he's got quality because of what he's been doing in the past, in youth level and all that. He knows how to cross the ball. He knows how to take players on. I've been more than impressed with him, I'll tell you. And as quite rightly said there, the link-up play with him and Martinelli, both 18 years of age, both flying machines, both got skill in abundance, and have got a great future, So, and the other thing is, you can, if say like Tierney comes back in, or Kolasinac, because I'm going to say this about Kolasinac, give him a bit of an arse deal. I thought he was playing really well until he got injured. So, but I get that we, the whole board would be loving that. Oh, we'll get rid of him. We'll save ourselves 120 grand a week. We won't have to buy no one else. They love that, won't they? Like, That'd be a good deal.
Isn't it interesting though that the fullback position you say there, Lee, has actually become one of the most important parts of our style of play?
Yeah.
Because Mikel Arteta, for me, that's what he's looking at. That's what Guardiola looked at under Man City when he shipped out Sagna, Clichy, Zabaleta, and Kolarov, and he's brought in now wing backs or fullbacks either that could have pace. And you look at what fullback has played bad under Arteta, because we've been talking about Saka. You've just mentioned how Kolasinac has finally looked under Arteta. Maitland-Niles looked really good in that position, and Bellerin's come back and had 2 games. So really, there's been no bad fullbacks because of the way we're playing, and I think Arteta looks at that as a pivotal part of our philosophy now. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens in those positions.
Yeah, because our fullbacks, they're actually concentrating on going forward and stuff. Sorry to jump in there, but they're actually concentrating on their sides rather than having to tuck in and protect the 2 centre halves who are getting exposed, because they've got Torreira and Xhaka protecting them. So they've got their 4. You know, as you said earlier, Xhaka's slipping in and filling those holes that the fullbacks used to get dragged around. You know, so it's the whole thing that's working. Do you know what I mean?
You may interrupt, Mark. That's fine. Like,
sorry, can I just come in there?
He got his feet under the desk quickly, hasn't he? He's got his feet under the desk quickly. I'll give him that.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm going to push me mute. I'm going to push me mute button again, so I don't breathe on the mic.
Can I just say? No, I totally agree with that. I think it's exciting times out for fullbacks, because, as you say, I think Bellerin's best part of his game is attacking. You know, and going forward, he's got quality. And as I say, I think Maitland-Niles has been very, very harshly treated, you know, ruthless as it is, to be left out. But that's how it is. They both played really, really well. It'd be interesting to see over this next year, 2 years, what's going to happen with Saka, because 18 years of age, you know, like they normally dip him in, dip him out. But he does seem like a real talent. I watched him a couple of years ago in the Youth Cup final, and he impressed me then. You know, he's definitely one player that through the youth teams has shone and done really, really well. But for me, it's great as a fan going to see like people like Saka now, Willock, Martinelli, a few youngsters in there, Maitland-Niles, all coming through. And doing the business for us. I think it's great, and long may it continue.
Absolutely. On that, what you said, that there's a brilliant comment here from Mo. Thanks for your comment, mate. He says that these youngsters have shown great respect to the Arsenal badge as being played out of position. Yet here we are now talking about whether we actually need a left back. Now we've got, do you know, brilliant. I think the young fellas are really playing for the badge, and I think a lot of that is down to Arteta. I think he's really, really changed our whole philosophy around the club, and I think Mark is right what he said there about having Arteta now as manager, a player who has lifted cups, has captained us, has played for us, knows what it means to be an Arsenal player. I think, you know, going forward, it's still very early to say, but I think going forward, Arteta is going to do really well. Let's get some questions in here. This one's from Wilson. Good evening to you, Wilson. And he's asking, who should be Arsenal's front three from now until the end of the season? Dan?
Good question. Okay, if it was me, I would have Aubameyang, Pepe and Martinelli.
Yeah,
I would drop Lacazette. I think because Lacazette's form is kind of out of form, and the away goals. I think it was someone gave a stat on to me yesterday. He scored 3 away goals since 2017. Lacazette.
Yeah.
That's shocking, isn't it? So I think I'd have to drop him, if I'm honest. I've not been a massive fan of Pepe, don't get me wrong. I think Pepe's got something about him, but I don't like Aubameyang on the wing. So I'm going to have to put Aubameyang up front with Pepe and Martinelli either side.
That's if he don't leave, of course.
Yeah. Harry,
what about you, mate?
Yeah, I agree with Dan. I'd go with those 3. I think Lacazette hasn't been performing of late. That's not to say there's not a good player in there somewhere, and that's not to say I don't appreciate some of the work he does in terms of holding the ball up and battling up front. But I just think that we've got one of the best strikers in Europe in Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. He's scoring all those goals from the left. Imagine what he'd do if he was played in his actual position. Martinelli on current form has to be in the team for me. The only thing I'd maybe do a little bit differently and try it, maybe experiment it, is I'd put Martinelli out on the right and I'd put Pepe on the left. And the reason I say that is because Pepe, for me, one of the frustrating things about him has been that he's got the pace and he's got the trickery to beat people, but because he's always looking to cut in on the inside, it's so obvious and it's so predictable, and often defenders hold him up. So I'd like to see him have that space to knock the ball on the outside of someone, use his pace, but be confident enough to then deliver with his stronger left foot. So that's why I'd like to see him on the other side. And for me, Martinelli, when he picks up the ball, even on the left-hand side, he's always driving directly towards goal. It's always like that South American style, like Suarez, like, Aguero. As soon as he gets the ball, his head down, and it's like a straight line towards the goal. So I think he could do that from the other side as well. So I'd like to swap them over for a little bit and see how that works, because I think we're missing a trick, not giving Pepe the space to take people on the outside, because he is lightning quick. And I think if he was confident in his ability to deliver with his right foot, maybe we'd see more. So switching him might change that.
Good point, mate. I like it. Lee, let's come to you on this one. This one's from Lee. Thank you very much for your question, Lee. Very loyal listener and watcher, this fella. Pint soon, mate, when I next come to Dublin. Lee, would you start Ozil against Burnley at the weekend?
Right, Harry. No, I wouldn't, but I think Arteta will. It's very strange for me. I don't know, before we go on to the Ozil thing, why Lacazette didn't play yesterday. I find that, that maybe, is he going to play? I would suggest that maybe he's going to play him in this on Sunday. Listen, I've got no real problems with playing Ozil when we play at home, because I think it's a different game when we're at home. But away from home, it's a little bit more physical. I feel that for me, I would play Willock, Guendouzi or Ceballos in front of Ozil for this game. And then if things are not going well, 20, 25 minutes from the end, Mesut come on and do his magic, trying to open us up. That's how I would see it. I think, by the way, Burnley's going to be a very, very tough game. I can't see that being a gimme. I think it's going to be, we're going to be having to be on our game to get something.
They're going to be flying, aren't they, after beating United?
Yeah, they've beaten United. I think they beat Leicester as well. I like
their goal. I like their goalkeeper as well. I like that Nick Pope. I think he should be England's number one. I think. Good side. Yeah. I'll go along with that. You know what I mean? They're a good side. So I would go down that route there. I think that I think it's going to be really interesting. I'm going to have to say how, and we was talking about this yesterday, how Arteta is going to manage Mesut Ozil, because there are a lot of people now losing patience with him. There are a lot of people that are starting to say, right, what, and I don't mean that nasty for him. I think because there's been fast improvements on a lot of players. A lot of players, are looking really, really good, but we're not seeing it from him. And I think a lot of fans want to see it from him, but they're not quite getting it. So there's a little bit of frustration from that point of view, But I don't think we should just at this moment in time leave him completely out of the picture. I would definitely have him in the squad and use him more times at home. And do you know what? In those European games when it's just that little bit less physical and quicker, that's where I would go. Because listen, boys, we've still got to somehow get into the Champions League, and the Europa League is going to be a tough ask. And maybe that's where Mesut can come into his own now. Nice point, mate. What about you, Mark? Would you play Mesut Ozil at the weekend?
No.
Okay.
No, because I agree with Lee. Actually, I think Mesut Ozil could be a bit of a cup king for us, and yeah, I don't know. Do you know what the whole thing about this front three? Tying it back into the last question and all that. I'm sad. I'm sad about Lacazette. I really am, because he's a fantastic player and he's done a superb job for us, holding up the ball and this unselfish thing that he's done. And he was a goal scorer when he came, and he's kind of adapted his game to do us a turn like a lot of the lads have. And I don't think he gets the credit. And I do think he looks like a very sad man at the minute, which is typical Frenchman, I guess. But when they're not happy, they let the world know. But I'm just sad about it because he's a class player. When he wants to play, he's done fantastic for us, and it's just a shame, really. It's just a shame that we haven't been able to keep him happy and keep him firing and stuff like that. I'm just sad about that. He looks like a man who's going.
I agree
in
with
January
you,
or the summer, and Arsenal will be worse off without him. And I'm just sad about that, really.
I have to agree. I'm very disappointed. And like you say, I think he will go in the summer. I hope he doesn't, but I think he will. This one comes in from Gunnar, and it's a good question, actually. Without being biased, do we think we have the best set of youth players in the Premier League or even the world? I won't go that far. Saka, Martinelli, Guendouzi, Nelson, Maitland, Niles, Tierney. Name me a team with a better bunch of youth players.
Chelsea.
You think so?
They've got a good.
They've got
I suppose they
back James, the centre half, Hudson-Odoi.
Theirs is a bit more balanced because they've got centre halves, they've got right backs, they've got midfielders, and they've got a striker in Tammy Abraham as well, who's still quite young. So
Mason Mount.
Well, I remember Lee. I remember that game. I'll go back to it. I know it's a couple of years ago, but when we went to Dublin to watch Arsenal-Chelsea, Hudson-Odoi absolutely
tore us apart, didn't he? Tore us apart. But
so there's one team.
Okay, so to answer your question, no.
I think there's a lot of teams with some good youngsters in their ranks.
I want to talk about our youngsters, though. Our youngsters,
they are fantastic, aren't they? They are fantastic.
I mean, look at Saka, look at Martin. I mean, Martinelli. I mean, if we can keep hold of him, I mean, he's 18 years old. What's he going to be like when he's 21?
Well, all of them. They're all very. It's exciting times. But with those, and this is what I was trying to make the point yesterday. With all those good young players, they need to have top experienced players alongside them to guide them, bring them through as well. So we need to improve in those areas as well, so that they can improve as well. So, but listen, they've got some great players in. It's great to see them coming through, and it's great that you can have a debate with Chelsea and Arsenal. I think that Chelsea have definitely got the youngsters there because they've won the Youth Cup in the last couple of years, and the team that's challenged them, funny enough, is Arsenal. So the two teams with the best youth teams, and look at the players that are coming through. But the reason that Chelsea have got these players coming through, let's be honest, is because they've been
they've got transfer ban.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You know what I mean? Arsenal are doing it because we've got a dirty, great
because we're skint.
We've got a money grabbing American anyway, and they've got embargoed. So, but that's how it is. And sometimes, in adversity something comes through. So who knows?
Right, come on then, Harry, Mr. Journo. Mary, is he going to join us or what?
I don't know is the honest answer to that. There was a lot made of it. He came over obviously with Edu. Charles Watts managed to capture that video, didn't he, as they were walking out of this sort of arrivals bit, and he said, he's excited to join Arsenal.
Video was brilliant. You could see when he says, are you excited to sign for Arsenal? And he says, of course. You can see Edu go,
yeah, exactly.
He must have been tipped off for that, surely, though.
Well, so he's come over. We understand that a medical or something like that was going to take place. Then the next day, the Daily Mail jumped on that was on the Saturday, I think. And then on the Monday, the Daily Mail jumped on the bandwagon saying, actually, it's off because he's gone back. The thing is, if you're going to uproot your life from Brazil to come to the UK, of course, you're going to fly back to Brazil at some point. I mean, you're not going to come with your one pair of pants that you've arrived in, are you? So, I mean, he was always going to go back at some point. The problem seems to be at the moment that Arsenal initially spoke to Flamengo about doing a loan deal with an obligation, so not an option, an obligation to buy him in the summer. That was the initial terms that were spoken of. This is what Flamengo have been saying to the media in Brazil, and that Arsenal now have moved the goalposts. Yeah, exactly.
Surprise.
Apparently, Arsenal don't want to give the amount up front that Flamengo want. Flamengo would prefer a permanent deal straight away, but apparently Arsenal have moved the goalpost in terms of what they're willing to put on the table up front, and this is the problem. Now, I don't know if that is actually the case, if Flamengo are just saying that because they're pushing for a permanent deal. We don't know if he's had a medical and failed it. There's been problems. Arsenal may have another reason to go back on it. You know, when medicals fail, the clubs are not allowed necessarily to come out and say, oh, we've done a medical on this guy and he's not fit, because it can damage that player in the future. So there's a lot that we don't. The honest truth is that nobody really actually knows what's going on. There's a lot of hot air.
Do you think then that this Mari deal might be put on hold, because a lot of outlets are reporting that we've actually signed this Matvienko? And what have you heard about that, mate?
So again, with Matvienko, it was very heavily linked towards the back end of last week. There was talk of Arsenal being in negotiations with Shakhtar Donetsk. But from my understanding, what Shakhtar Donetsk want for the player is way above what Arsenal are willing to spend in this January transfer window. Arsenal are trying to do some sort of structured payment deal. And I know everybody always says this. Everybody goes, oh, but everybody does.
Is distraught.
Everybody always says, oh, it's not just Arsenal that do structured deals. And I totally accept
Was
that.
it £1 a week?
Yeah, you know what I mean? I totally accept that other clubs work in that way as well. But to be frank, Arsenal are taking the piss in the way they're trying to go about things. And they're putting people off doing business with them, because particularly in Flamengo's case, where they want to replace the player. You know, they can't replace the player if you don't give them the money up front. They don't want to loan one of their starting central defenders out to another club to get a few quid in now and hopefully get the rest of it at the end of the season. So, you know, it's making it very difficult to do business. And it's one thing paying some of the transfer fee in installments, but to pay the majority of it is what Arsenal want to do. And that's why we're having problems with pretty much everyone that we're trying to sign at the minute.
Yeah. Does anyone feel that there's any truth to this Aubameyang rumour? That he might be off? He might be off in January.
I don't think he'll be in January. I think if he goes, he'll be in the summer. If we don't get in the Champions League football, I think that'll be it for him and Lacazette. I've got I'd say fairly reliable source in the know, and I wanted to ask Harry, because there's another player that I've been told that we're pretty much signing. One of them is Mari. We spoke about him. Apparently it is done. He's just going to and from, and they're just trying to sort out the other bits. The other guy is the Southampton right back, Cedric Suarez. What I've been told it's done. It's pretty much we've got him. Why do we need him?
It's one that surprises me, and I'll tell you why I'm surprised. Because Southampton a couple of months ago, were in deep trouble in relegation scraps. And now, all of a sudden, we're hearing that they're going to let all their defenders go. So they're talking about Vestergaard moving on to Leicester. They're talking about Suarez coming to Arsenal. Now, for me, it doesn't quite make sense. I think Arsenal do need another right back in the squad. But when you, as we currently stand, but when you think about the fact that Ainsley Maitland-Niles can play there, that Hector Bellerin is back, that Callum Chambers, when eventually he returns to fitness, can fill in that position as well. It doesn't make sense, in my opinion, to go and get a short-term fix like Cedric Suarez. Not a great player, in my opinion. He's done all right at Southampton. Quite highly rated in the Portuguese national team before Ricardo, the Leicester right back, came along and displaced him. But for me, I haven't heard anything on that. If you're saying that you've heard it's close to being done, I can't really say anything because I haven't heard that.
Okay, all right. We'll leave it there, Dan and Harry Ornstein. Just, I don't know.
Spitting rumour mills.
Yeah, that's it. Spitting bare facts.
I can say Cedric, so I'm all right with that.
This Mari deal just stinks, doesn't it? It just stinks Arsenal. Different events. I've heard that the deal was done. They were just about to announce him.
Isn't it something to do with third ownership? Aren't they trying to keep? Because in Brazil, don't they like to keep hold of a certain stake in players and all this sorts of stuff? It's not allowed, is it, in Premier League?
I've heard that the medical was done. He's had his pictures taken, this, that, and the other. Arsenal were going to announce it, and then all of a sudden, Flamenco said, "Actually, you can't have him on loan. You either have him for this amount. You either have him for this amount of money or the deal's off.
I said you got to come back. You forgot your pants.
That's it. But then
they've got to have it now, haven't they? We've lost Mustafi. How many more centre halves are we going to lose before? We've got 2 days to sort it out. We could lose another one on February the 2nd.
Yeah,
and then we're.
A lot of these in the knows say that with negotiations are carrying on and they can't see the deal not going ahead. So I don't know. We'll just have to sit back and wait.
But why is it that we can't afford people in terms of this? Because we sold Iwobi to Everton for like 30 odd million, didn't we, on the last day of the window? Didn't spend that, but that's clearly gone into the Rams because we haven't seen it, have we? Where's it gone?
It goes back to what Judge was saying on right at the start of the season, that Arsenal pulled the wool over everybody's eyes and made them think that they spent a lot of money in the summer, when in actual fact they didn't. They've done a lot of it in installments. Because they've done so much of it in installments, they're now committed to those payments, which is limiting what they can do going forward. Also, you've got to take into consideration that as much as people like to think that we're still a Champions League club, and we are in terms of our size and the wage bill that we currently have, if we don't qualify for the Champions League next season, it'll be our 4th season without that Champions League revenue. And that has to take its toll, particularly when you've got an owner that isn't going to put his hand in his pocket and help out. Arsenal want to be self-sustaining. It's caught up with us. The fact that we've been out of the competition for so long, likely for a 4th year, it's limited us. And whilst we're still paying Champions League wages to Aubameyang, to Ozil, to whoever else, we're going to have this problem.
So that 30 million or whatever the hell it is from Iwobi, is that going on the Pepe deal for the next 10 years? That's what I'm trying. That's what I don't get. I can't see.
Probably is, Dan.
The club. I just can't understand it. It's just so wrong.
They've put it in one of them bank accounts where you have to lock it in for 12 months to get your 4% back.
Probably is again. Wouldn't surprise me.
Aston Villa can be promoted and spend 150 million, and we can't spend 7.5 million on Mari.
I'll tell you what, though, as well, that Iwobi deal would have been done and Arsenal would have had that in the bag. Well, they would have known about it before they signed Pepe. So that money isn't extra. That money was, in my opinion, it was part of the Pepe thing. It was part of why they felt they could stretch that far, rather than an extra.
What it must be,
Okay. We travel to Turf Moor, isn't it? Burnley's ground. In the Premier League. The weekend. We get a quick prediction from you all before we end. Dan, away at Burnley. What are you looking at, mate?
I'm going up there. First away game of the season. So I'll see you up there if you're up there, Lee.
I'll see you up there.
Oh, man. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Arsenal win.
I don't expect too much. Burnley's not great.
No, that's why I'm going to go for a 2-1.
I was going to say you couldn't have picked the worst one to start.
Yeah. 2-1
Arsenal. Harry.
I'm going to go for a draw just because Arsenal are the draw specialists. Arsenal have had 12 draws in the Premier League. That's 2 more than Wolves, who have got the second highest amount, which is 10. So, Arsenal are the draw specialists. Burnley, they don't draw very often, but I think that Mikel Arteta's team will have enough to hold them to a point, and we'll come away with a well-earned point, I reckon.
Mark?
We'll win.
Oh, good man. Any score?
Well, someone will, Craig. Someone will have to. Otherwise we won't win.
I want a prediction on the score.
I'm not giving it to you. You'll have to tune in tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Potts preview.
Right. Good. Yeah, very good. Nice. Lee?
Well, if I could just interrupt there and just say this. I am going to come with Mark. I'm not going to say because we've got the preview tomorrow. So
okay.
But I'm going to say that I think that Arsenal. I don't think someone told me yesterday Burnley have not drawn a game for 18 games, or is they're the team that's not drawn a game for so long, or the only team that's not in the Premier League that's not drawn a game. Don't correct me if I'm wrong. So on that basis, I think that we might just nick this one, but I can't tell you the score. I'm not too sure myself yet.
Well, yes, do tune in tomorrow at 7 o'clock for the Potts preview with Mark and Lee. And have you got any special guests tomorrow, Dan? Any Burnley fan on there with you?
Yeah, we've got a young female Burnley fan, and we've also got Claude with us as well. So that should be fun.
Excellent.
Does she live in Burnley, this girl?
Yeah, I believe so, mate. I believe so.
I can't make it tomorrow. I've just realised I can't make it. You know what I mean? After saying that about Burnley, it's a lovely place. It's a lovely place. Yeah.
I'm going 3-1
Dug
Arsenal.
your own now, Lee. You've dug your own now.
I'm going 3-1 to the Arsenal.
Get in there, Craig. Yes, Craig. Positivity.
Absolutely. Everyone in the chat box, thank you very much indeed for staying with us and listening to us talk for the last hour. It is really much appreciated. Before you go, if you can all touch that like button for us, because it really helps. It helps us with I was reading up on it actually. The algorithms of YouTube. The more likes we get, and we get put on that little side page when people are looking at Arsenal related stuff. So that's how new people will find us. So if you could like it before you turn off, that would be great. My thanks to Dan. Thank you very much, mate.
Cheers, Craig. Thanks, boys.
My thanks to Harry. Harry, thank you very much.
Cheers, mate.
Don't forget, obviously, to sign up to that Hot Mic app and watch the games along with Harry, and go over and subscribe to the Chronicles of a Gooner as well.
Cheers,
Mark, thank you very much indeed, mate.
Thanks,
Pleasure as always. And the judge, of course. My Laurel to my Hardy, my Ant to my Deck, my Bodger to my Badger. Do you remember that? Bodger and Badger? Yeah. That was brilliant. No. Brilliant show.
My beard to my moustache, because we're into beards now.
You're the Badger, though, of course.
Have you wet yourself this week, Craig, or have you managed to hold it in?
I've held it in. Do you know why?
Well done, Craig. You've done a whole hour.
And
He's got a bottle down there, and he like that.
And I drunk all that.
What do you mean he's sitting on a toilet?
He's had a bag fitted.
You didn't hear the trickling, no?
Did you hear
That's because I'm at home and I'm relaxed.
Yeah.
It's the first same old Arsenal podcast I've done at home.
He doesn't mind wetting himself at home.
Yeah, exactly. I'll just go upstairs and change. That's because of my new super broadband. Bloody love it. No more. No more lagging and no more stressing out.
It's absolutely superb, that new broadband, Craig. I can actually see those 3 hairs on the front of your head.
Show you fucking. Yeah. Mark, I love you, and I've loved you for a long time. But your feet, something's just happened here. The lights have gone out. But
that's that broadband.
Shit
sucked all the power out your house.
Did you see that?
Yeah, you ain't got electricity in Ireland. That's candles. But you're putting that one in, right?
Must have been a strong gust of wind under the door there,
the bulb in the kitchen is just blown up. Jesus Christ! Oh, you know, to feel my heartbeat.
Are you there, Cedric?
Did you hear that? Just went fucking gone. Anyway, thanks very much. That was a bit of one more thing I just wanted to say actually is a couple of people have been asking why Graham's not here. Sure, you won't mind me telling you, but Graham's actually in hospital. Nothing serious, but he's been in hospital having something seen to. Nothing serious.
I know that. You know,
what's that?
He's telling the doctors what to do. You know,
probably, yeah. I'll just interrupt you now. Are you sure? Yeah.
Is that the right leg? Yes.
So Graham, if you're watching or you're listening, mate, speedy recovery, mate.
Get well soon, Graham.
Get well soon. As you said, catch the boys tomorrow at 7:00 on the same old Arsenal talk in Burnley with Lee, Mark, and Dan. And we'll see you next week. Much more to say than up the Arsenal. All the best.
Up
the Arsenal.